So, MuffWiggler. Mike McGrath of the MuffWiggler forum, the creator, shepherd of all our weird modular fantasies in some way, passed away. And I think it affected me a little more than I expected at first. But it's a downer.
Yeah, I don't know under what circumstances he passed away. It doesn't really matter, I guess. Just leaves some questions now as to, like, you know, what's going to happen with MuffWiggler, the forum. I personally don't know. I've looked at, you know, Facebook and the threads on MuffWiggler, and I think his sister has taken ownership of it or something like that.
Yeah, okay.
I guess he left it to her in his will, so to speak. But what that means for the future of the forum, I'm not sure. I just know that there's a lot of people who have been using this as an opportunity to complain about the name and saying it's a good time to change it. And I'm like, how? I don't understand why this would be a good time to change it.
Yeah.
Like,
Also, make your own forum.
Exactly. It's like, do your own thing. Like, this is Mike's legacy. He named it. I don't think anyone should be fucking with that personally. But yeah, it was hard to get any real information over the last week because there was more people debating about whether or not they should be offended by the name than, you know, I guess paying their respects. You know what I mean? That was a little frustrating to have to sift through it. As much as I did sift through it, I saw a lot of people paying their respects, and that was cool.
Yeah.
Like when I joined MuffWiggler, that was 2008. My member number is 244. We're up to 46,000 now.
Wow.
Yeah.
You know, like a lot of people still refer to MuffWiggler as, like, you know, a tiny little niche, you know, community, but it's definitely gone beyond that
for sure
over the last few years. Like it's huge, and I think his passing, you know, it's going to leave and it's going to have an impact on a lot of people now, you know, whether they're just lurking on the forums or not. It's like you have to acknowledge, you know, his impact on the synth community at large here.
I mean, even just personally as someone, I think I joined, you know, a little bit after you, Greg, but I've been on there for years. I think my post count is like 10. Like I never got to 100 to be able to sell because I just lurk.
Yeah.
There's no way to describe how good the information I got from there was, even when it was like contentious or people were arguing or like it wasn't clear cut. Just even those debates about these certain things, just sitting and reading those was like, there was no other way for me to get that in a way that would have gotten me from A to where I am now with something that is it is dense. It is hard to get into. And if that was spread out over, you know, a KVR or any of these other sort of like existing forums and it had been relegated to some sub forum somewhere where there was 3 people maybe just sort of bickering with one another, it wouldn't have been the treasure trove of just incredible information. And, you know, people sort of talking and bouncing back and forth. You get a sense that, like, you know, some of these ideas came from people going, oh, I wish I did this and I wish I did that, and someone going like, those are all great ideas. Yeah. And now I've just made a module and you can now have it because the manufacturers they were other people that were just on this forum and were listening and engaging in this conversation. You had fans, you had users, and you had manufacturers all in arm's length from one another in a way that was, I don't see how you can recreate that in any other sort of way.
And you still do, too. You know, like a lot of people like to reminisce about the Wiggler of old, but I'm like, it's still there. There's still a lot of interesting people. There's still a lot of great minds that are on those forums and are active every day. Yeah. It's just that there's a lot more noise now, too, because we have so many more people there. Yeah. It's like that doesn't take away from the positive stuff that's there. Yeah. You know what I mean? You just got to kind of sift through the noise ratio a bit more.
There's so much there. Like if you want to learn about power supply grounding, like there's oceans of actual really good information on that forum if you want to search for it.
I mean, even looking at something like maths with, like, you know, like the sort of infamy of maths, and it's like, I don't, you know, there's threads that started with, I have no idea why this is popular. Why would anyone use this? What do I do? And then 6 pages later, you now have a ton of people going, well, this is how I use it. Here's a video of this thing that I've done. And the original poster goes, yeah, all right, I'm glad I didn't sell this because this is clearly an amazing module. And like that didn't just turn into, you know, either the path of you're stupid, you don't know what you're doing, here's my chance to berate someone who doesn't know as much as me, or, you know, this sort of like dense white paper. Like that no one can use. It was like this sort of like that perfect, like a lot of these threads and all these discussions end up being that sort of like perfect balance of like useful information, people being a smartass, people being an asshole, but like at the end there was this like these sort of useful artifacts that even if you're not engaged in the conversation, you can look at it and go, yeah, I'm learning a lot just by watching these people argue.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I kind of got burned out on forums, like, you know, a long time ago.
Sure.
But Wiggler, Muffs, whatever you want to call it, it's the only forum that I've stuck around this long as a member of and been this active on for this length of time. You know what I mean? So I think that says something for sure.
It has almost like the right amount of toxicity.
Yeah.
Like it's
Right.
it's not saccharine, it's not sweet, it's not everyone's being very nice, but it's also not like everyone runs away because of it. It's almost like the toxin is an accent, a little drop of it to.
It's almost like you need it a little, otherwise you might be there a little too much.
Yeah.
Too. We've all had our times of being there quite a bit. I know I have,
Yeah.
and now it's more of still there daily, but it's not like it was.
Yeah. Hopefully it continues on.
Yeah.
I'm not sure who's paying the bills at this point or where the funds are coming from or who's doing all the administration, but
I know that for the overdue bill that happened right before Mike passed away, I know SynthCube footed the entire bill.
yeah.
So I
that's
feel like
awesome.
there's enough of a community that people know the value and they'll
Yeah.
support it because like that site should persist. You
Yeah,
know, that's like the hub for a lot of synthesis and electronic music information. Period.
So wait, what else was on our list?
Zadar!
Yeah.
Honeymoon phase over.
Fuck
Do you
you
still
guys
love-
in a way, Xaoc.
I did want to say that all of my interactions with the Xaocs,
Zayoc. I don't care if they say it's supposed to be chaos.
Yeah.
I'm going to call him
Oh yeah,
Xaoc.
that's
Xaoc.
That's
So all my interactions with the Xaoc was stellar. I explained what was going on. They asked me to try a few things. I did and said, hey, it's still broke. And they said, cool, ship it. It wasn't fast because it's in Poland. That's not their fault. And I got it back, and I have not had a single problem since. Knock on whatever the fuck this table's made out of. No matter what we say about how we feel about it, I have to say that my interactions with the company and their support and them turning around and giving me one that works, thumbs up.
So I'm coming on the other end with two thumbs down.
I figured that was the case.
I will never buy another Xaoc module, no matter how much I like the Zadar, because of the way that they treated me throughout that whole situation. I've updated a bunch of models with my audio interface, many audio interfaces. They pretty much kind of treated me like a child and said that, you know, oh, you need like an audio setup that works. You've ruined this. You've taken like the wrong approach. It's like, dude, it's a UAD Apollo 8 on a MacBook Pro. There's no real variance here.
Yeah.
Like, it's a single electric line going to the box. Never had any issues. Don't have any electrical issues. Like, not the fucking interface, dude. You have some flaw in your modules. Honestly, the fact that their update with the weird character, they've made a few little missteps with this update. Oh, yeah, we got the version name wrong on the firmware. We didn't know that this character was wrong. Well, both of those prove to me that you didn't test your build at fucking all. You got it to work on a module and you said ship it. We're going to move on to the next thing.
And you were not alone in that thread. It was like all kinds of people were having problems
To
with
the
it.
point where there's now customer service in Pennsylvania that was close that they could ship it to deal with what they felt like were the annoying people that amped the levels up too high or did something wrong. And it's like, no, first off, make a list of what you would expect people to do. Tell us what the average decibel level should be. Is it -10? Is it +4 dBu? What was your actual scenario that they updated it on, which I asked them and they never responded to. So at that point, like, dude, it's a great module, but treat your users with some level of respect. I didn't really feel I got that. I feel like they do kind of some janky software work, and I get it. Like, you probably found a hardware flaw that you don't want to update. I totally get it. I know what that's like, but
It almost feels like there has to be because they immediately kind of ninja released a revision,
Yeah.
which was a little suspect. They never said anything about it. It's just like, oh, guess what? There's a 2019 version. For all of you that just bought this a month ago, guess what? There's a new version that we're not talking about. And it's okay.
And I've seen some other people on Muffs that were like same scenario as me. Like, look, I just kind of got stuck in this. I don't know. This thing keeps bailing after it updates multiple packets of data. Why would it stop? You know?
Yeah.
Warp off. The levels were right. It was Hope your uses out a little more.
I'm glad I waited and watched this unfold on the line, and also between you two, it made me realize like I just didn't want to fuck with it. I was like, I want this update, but I ain't fucking around. So I just sold my Zadar and went and bought another one that was already updated from them. And lo and behold, it was a revised module, which I wasn't really aware existed,
with the correct version, like whatever 1.2 on it.
Yeah.
It's like, but updating the other ones bricked it, and you admit that, but this new one worked fine with the same process. That's pretty fishy.
Yeah.
So calling you out, love the module, but kind of fucked the way you approached that. Personally, they didn't even talk about the calibration process that you pretty much need to do in the firmware upgrade procedure until people bitched on the forum and they were like, oh yeah, you got to calibrate it.
That was the final straw for me. Like I realized that like I didn't want to fuck around updating and having a potential problem with a module that like I was kind of already becoming dependent upon for my shit. And secondly, I saw the calibration and I was like, nah, I don't want to mess with all this. Like if I'm to the point where with updates period, where like I would rather just send my module to someone to do it, like Control Mod or Detroit Modular, someone nearby, have them do it and just ship it back to me. I can live with it, without it for a few days if that means I don't have to go through, painstaking processes of updating and calibrating every digital module in my rig at this point. There's just no fucking standard for it. Like every module through every manufacturer updates in a different way. Even if you're doing just like the audio interface, like for Zadar, like Mutable does the same thing, but it's completely different for their shit. You know what I mean? It's like everything you have to have a certain procedure or a certain tool or a connector, like I needed for the Harvest Man stuff.
Yeah.
You needed a Picket 2 adapter, and it had to be a certain version. And it's just like I'm so sick of like updating shit. My Rainmaker is still on the original firmware, because like I don't even want to consider like messing with that thing.
Yeah, you need a VM for that. Well, I do because I have a Mac, so there's a whole step.
It's crazy, dude. Like I almost want to just like sell it and just buy one that's updated at this point. It's like be less of a hassle. It's like
the only
time
one
for all this shit
I've had that's really good is the ER301 because you just put a zip file on an SD card and put it on there, and he's got a whole process. It's very foolproof. I've updated it dozens of times now with each release, and never an issue.
The Audio Damage Sequencer 1 was like that. It had a SD card on the back. You popped the module out, took the card out, slapped it in your computer, copied over the new firmware, threw it back in the module, powered it on, it detected it, done deal.
Right.
I'm like, that was great.
And then if you want the NIN expander, turns out you've got another firmware update you're up against. So it's like, I'm not going to get that. I was hoping I could make my own 2 HP one because 3 HP can't really deal with that right now.
And I don't want those fucking buttons either.
No, I don't need buttons for triggering it.
The only thing I'm a little worried about too, though, and we talked about this in email, is I get the feeling that that's going to be the straw that breaks Zach Hamill's back.
Right.
It's already got to be pushing that hardware to the limit, and the second one of those NIN inputs that I put in, I just see that thing just freezing up and going up.
And what's scary, they're stuck now because they have no more memory whatsoever.
Yeah.
So if they have a fix, you're gonna have to cut something or like do something creative to try to get that to work. But
it does feel complete, at least, though. You know what I mean? The newest firmware, like there's nothing I can think of that it needs. You know what I mean? It feels solid. I like it.
Going back to the original question you asked, the answer is the honeymoon over, maybe, but I've settled into a very comfortable marriage with my Zadar.
Yeah, it's great in the regard that like you can easily get, out of it what you would expect from a digital envelope. You know what I mean? It's super easy, but once you go beyond that, there's so much more to explore. It's really awesome.
Greg, you posted a video where you're doing like sequence stuff with it,
using it to make arpeggiations and stuff.
Yeah.
It was one of those aha moments when I was, I was like, I want to play with Zadar. What should I do with it? And I was like, send it to the 1 volt octave of quantizer. And I can't even remember that patch. It was basic, but I don't remember what I did. It was something between Zadar and scales being triggered in different ways. You know what I mean? Because you can have I was gating the Zadar once every so often. Like, it was a long gate, you know what I mean? And then I was hitting other gates to the scales to create, like, the note changes. You know what I mean? So it was like a weird cycle. And then I had the trigger out of that going to something else. I can't remember. With Zadar, it was like a weird loop type of thing. But basically, it was a modulated arpeggiation. It's not something you would typically get with a normal envelope. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
So what else was on the list? We have a huge list.
As I pull out the Minilogue XD.
Should we describe this for the listeners? This unboxing video.
Yeah, this is sexy, dude. That's
So I got the bag
sleek
for it.
leather bag.
Yeah, I got the bag. It didn't come with the bag. I was gonna play it at a show, and I did not at the last kind of minute. I will say, for the price, it was like, I think I got it on sale. It was like $620 or something like that. Honestly, I've had synthesizers for a lot of years now. Access Virus, all sorts of shit. This thing should cost twice as much. Very happy it doesn't, of course. But it's 4-voice, full analog poly. Actually love the fucking analog oscillators on it. They are more, if they made this in a module, I would get it. The sound of it, very close to the Minilogue, but there's some richness to it, and that's kind of corny, but it sounds really fucking good. Didn't expect that. Expected it to sound okay. You know, like Analog 4. Did you ever have the Analog 4 from Electron at all?
Yeah.
That thing was anemic and thin as fuck.
Yeah.
Which I think, they kind of updated that or something,
I
or
always
whatever.
blame the filter, but
Yeah.
you could, like, bypass the filter pretty much, and it would still sound kind of nasally.
When I
It's
looked
okay.
at that square wave, the square wave is what I hated the most on the Analog 4 on a scope, and it was like it was not a square wave. These ones sound ridiculous. So that's part of it. You get 2 full analog oscillators. Right? You get sync and ring mod. You get cross mod too, which is really nice. Pretty nice feature. Multi-engine, though, is where it's at. This is the main differentiator for this and the Minilogue, just the regular one. This one also just has a low-pass filter, but we'll talk about that. There are some ways you can get around that. So multi-engine. So I thought at first it was just oscillators you can upload, but it's actually oscillators and modulation effects, reverbs effect, delay effects. All that code you can update and override.
Okay.
Cool thing, you can find the best place to get all this info is a Reddit thread for the prologue and for this synth, because it'll load the same code. You can get a multi-mode filter effect for it. So you can get like high pass, band pass, and all that other shit, which is pretty cool. So when I got the thing, I played with it, and it just comes with like 2 built-in kind of multi-engine effects. One of them is VPN. Then a few days in, I put all the Platts code on it. I bought like a $20 oscillator with wave folding on it. It was like getting another synth, basically. You could just sit there with Platts code on it, playing Platts code in poly. It's fucking awesome. I actually hated the overdrive on this, and the overdrive's kind of limiting. You get 0%, 50%, 100% overdrive. That's it. Yeah, exactly. Strange choice.
Yeah.
I thought it sounded like shit on the regular oscillator models. And then I got the Platts one and was like, oh, okay, no, there's some dirt in here. So that was really cool. I haven't put any like custom effects on, but you look at it and they don't really clarify this up front, but it almost looks like you only get one effect at a time, right? Mm-hmm. But it's actually not that way. All this stuff is like digital memory kind of. So you can just go to reverb and turn it on and turn it off. Go to delay, turn it on, turn it off. You get everything simultaneously, basically. It sounds really good too. The effects are very quality. You just get time and depth. You get 2 parameters, basically. The trick of this thing is, and the way, Platts obviously doesn't have just one knob. So you're like, how do I get to the other parameters? Well, you got to go to this edit mode, and there's a menu you got to dive in here, and you can do some things like some of them have internal envelopes to modulate it, because you only get a few, you get a full ADSR and then an AD and this LFO. That's fucking it. You got these destinations for it. This one's hardwired to amp for the full ADSR. That's your modulation. Aside from the 2 CV ends, which is fucking brilliant, and then you'll get some internal oscillation on some of this. Anyway, you get a ton of presets on it. Most of them sound like garbage, of course. Some of them are pretty good. But I love patching this thing. This is probably one of my favorite synthesizers ever. I've had it for a while. Like, I could probably get rid of a lot of stuff. The Blofeld's kind of gone away. One of the main differences is you get this joystick with XY, and you can either just assign it, you can CV the XY, or you can CV individual parameters. You can assign up and down to any parameter you want almost, but left and right are always going to be pitch bend to a degree. Pretty interesting choices, but it's nice because this will just be like, oh, octave down real quick when you're playing it. It's nice to play live if you want to like just kind of pitch down a whole sequence or something like that. Yeah, this sounds great. What are the downsides? So you notice
Actually,
you
I
get...
got a question.
Yeah, go ahead.
This damper?
That's so rare. Right? It's actually a volume pedal input if you want a damper. How many fucking synthesizers have a damper pedal? I've seen people on Gearsluts and other forums that are like, oh, fuck, I'm a piano player that wants a synth. I will buy this thing because it has a fucking damper input on.
Yeah.
Because that's what I'm used to. And it's like,
Right.
oh, I don't think of things that way. But one of the things that's kind of annoying is there's no octave switch for the multi right here. You were only going to tune this thing with your keys, basically, and then everything else has to shift around it. It's kind of an interesting choice. I kind of wish they would have put some way to like pitch that up and down. So you kind of got to do that with the keys and then just adjust these to suit. It's not the biggest deal, right? I think I've maybe looked at the manual once or twice. It's very easy to program. It's got a nice chord sequencer, just like kind of a 101, but mono or chords. So I've sat there and just made sequences, just recording it into here, and it's pretty straightforward. It's of course quantized to 16 steps and everything, but I don't know. I really like the thing. It sounds really good.
Where's the dice and pepper buttons?
There are no dice or pepper buttons on
Damn.
here. Yeah, what does it have as far as special features go? Things it doesn't have that the monologue does is the LFO rate will only go so high. Whereas one of the things that made the monologue nice was that it would go into like really fast audio rates and you could just treat it as another
Does
oscillator.
it hit audio at all, or is it like
A little bit.
Yeah.
Yeah, I would say it probably
Probably
goes up
like-
to like 2K,
Okay.
something like that. So it's limiting, but it does the trick.
Are these your only targets for these? Or
Yeah.
is there additional ones in the menu?
These are your only targets. So to be honest, it's another thing. Like they're generally like pointed this way. I usually have the LFO on shape and the second EG on cutoff. You can assign these you can assign to anything, which is awesome. It
Oh,
opens
that's
it
cool.
up quite a lot. Another nice thing is like it's not some weird process to put the new oscillators on. There's a nice librarian program. You can easily back up all your patches, throw third-party code on there without having to like know how to do anything technical. I think they kind of fucking crushed it in a way. I really like it. I think the filter sounds really good. It's the monologue filter, not the Minilogue one. It's a little beefier. It's only like 12-pole low pass. Really
Yeah,
wish
it
they
looks
made a
nice.
desktop version.
Yeah, yeah.
The keys are all right. For like mini shitty keys. I'm not a piano
It's
player.
got like
I
a
don't really give
digital
fuck.
MS-20-ish look.
Yeah, for
Yeah.
sure.
Kind of nice look.
It's burly. It's got this weird like. I remember the designer even talked about how much he pissed off the mechanical engineers by doing this curved faceplate. And they're like, "Dude, what the fuck are you doing?" He's like, "No, I kind of want it this way." Yeah, it
Looks
works
nice.
for me.
Yeah.
I like it. It's got the micro tuning that Aphex Twin suggested from the monologue. Only the Minilogue and the monologue have that, and the Novation base station now that it has the Aphex updates.
So you mentioned the analog oscillators.
Yeah.
What is on there for digital? Is it like do you get like 2 and 2 or something? Like
So you get this down here, which I forget. One of these is the variable phase modulation, which is just kind of like FM.
okay,
I had the Korg Prophecy, which I've had since I was like 17 years old, and it had variable phase modulation. I feel like they ported some of that or something like that. There's another one you get on board. Then you get all these other different types of like, I forget exactly, but it sounds, even if you couldn't upload your own, it would be a fully satisfying and deep synthesizer. And I think the Platt stuff just takes it to like another fucking dimension.
yeah, that's what I'm curious about. Like if I didn't load anything on there and say I wanted to just disable the analog oscillator.
Oh yeah, I've done that for many patches.
Okay, so what are you left with then?
Oh, you're left with this multi-os full poly and everything else.
Okay, so that's just like one variable oscillator.
Yeah, so you get a mixer
Okay.
here for all your different, like the
Gotcha.
2 VCOs and the multi, and it's just
Okay.
up to you how you want to use the 3 oscillators. I usually will start a patch with the multi shit, and then I've often found that when I turn up, oh fuck, it's even better. Like it's even
bring
more
in
of
the
like a
analog on top of
sub-octave
it as
overtone.
later.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, that's how I like to patch it, honestly.
I feel you.
Sometimes I'll turn it off and just do straight analog, which almost surprises me in a way because I didn't generally. I'm not going for that.
So if you were trying to do sub-octave stuff, do you have to do it by ear, or as you're adjusting these, do you get any sort of feedback as to like you're off by these semis?
Oh yeah, you do actually. That's a great point. When you adjust the tones on the thing, it'll tell you how many cents
Oh,
you're
that'd
off,
be
which is
nice.
fucking brilliant, right? Because
Yeah.
I hate tuning things. Everybody does, like for the most part.
That's a nice touch, yeah.
Yeah.
kind of selling me on this thing.
Yeah.
Uh-huh. I fully recommend it. I think it's fucking amazing.
You've sold me on the desktop if they ever make one.
I want to petition them. I would be like, I will buy a desktop in addition just to like use it live because I don't really need keys. You know, none of us really are keyboard players. So
Did it come with stickers so you can customize it?
no. Oh yeah, I should touch on that. I think I was a little hyped on the model samples last time we were talking.
Yes,
you were.
That didn't last. That was a full day until I sold it, basically.
Wow.
Yeah, it just wasn't for me.
Yeah.
Analog rhythm is.
Wasn't that about how long you lasted with the OP1?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Those are the two shortest things ever, for sure. Didn't like either.
That had to have been a roller coaster ride of a day, though.
Uh-huh.
From start to finish. By the end of the day, you're like, fuck it, this thing's gone.
Do you want to get into it? Do you want to explain like what?
Yeah,
like,
sure.
Yeah.
So there are parts of it I like in that the knobs are there, right? And
Yeah.
it works, right? And they did add the sample lock in this year, not just limited to like, what was it, 4 or 6 samples, which seemed a
Yeah.
little arbitrary. I don't know, man. When I'm not going to prepare a bunch of samples and get them like really pristine and then put them on a drum machine and play them. I need something where I'm going to design sounds on it. I need some flexibility. I need the ability to overdrive. I need some analog. I need some digital. Analog rhythm is just my favorite drum machine ever. I'm never going to find anything that comes close, really.
I don't want to say I told you so, but that's exactly what I
You
thought. And
No,
I was thinking, I'm like, there's no fucking way he's gonna like this thing more than the rhythm. I was like, there's no way. But I was curious. I wanted to be surprised. I was like, I want him to conjure some magic out of this shit and be like, fuck you, this thing's better than the rhythm. But
You have gone completely out of your way to not say I told you so, but you're saying I told you so.
You may have already said that before. I think right after I was like, fuck this thing, I sold it. You were like, yeah, I expected that. I tried it, got it out of my system to a degree.
because I just know what I like about the rhythm and what I was seeing lacking with there. And I know you've taken the rhythm even further. You know what I mean? Like you've gone beyond with that thing than I ever have. And I was like, I don't know how that he's gonna phase it out for that.
I was hopeful.
I got Qubit Prism in my rack.
Oh,
yeah.
Talk a little about that.
It's nifty.
What do you... So what is it again? It's like a kind of filter,
Nifty.
right?
It is a filter, but so much more.
Oh.
No, I like it. It has some weird jazz to it. You know what I mean? It's got basically it's a little mangler, you know, which I didn't really realize when I bought it. What I wanted was a multi-mode stereo filter with, you know, interesting CVable options that would pair well with clouds because I'm using clouds a lot and I want to be able to filter things in stereo.
Yeah. That game.
And I didn't want a giant expensive filter. You know what I mean? And I looked at the price of this thing and I was like, okay, that's definitely reasonable.
How much was it?
Yeah.
2 or 3?
Between 2 and 3, I can't remember. I think like 250, around about somewhere around
Pretty
there.
good.
Yeah, and it's the extra stuff with it is really cool. Like, I don't know exactly what you want to call it, but it's like you can't have just like the filter. You know what I mean? It's like it's all kind of joined together. It's like a fractal way. You know what I mean? Everything intersects there, but it works. You know, I didn't know if I would like that at first. I was kind of annoyed that there was so much stuff tied in there, but it works well, especially with clouds. It's got the buffer freeze that you can CV, so you can kind of do like beat repeat, like up to like 2 beats type of thing.
Is it all digity?
All digital.
Okay.
Yeah, and surprisingly, the filter sounds good, being a digital filter. It has like a very vocal like character to it. Like you can crank the resonance and you'll start to get like vowel formants. Ooh. You know what I mean? It's interesting.
Like
Very cool.
Yeah, I didn't know what to expect, and so far I've been pleasantly surprised with everything that I've done with it, and it seems really well thought out. Like you can have the filter, like I said, you can't really separate all the extra shit from the filter, but you can change the order of it. So you can have like the filter kind of be off, or you can do low pass, high pass, band pass before all the other effects, or you can switch it to be after all of the effects.
Oh, cool.
I felt that was like a really nice touch. And And the other effects, off the top of my head, it's got like sample and bitrate reduction, which you can CV. It has a weird knob which functions to the left as like a delay and to the right as a comb filter. I might be getting that backwards, but either way, it's a delay or a comb filter. And you can kind of change how that functions as well. There's a mode you can get into where the CV that would change what filter mode you're in, you can turn that into a clock input, and that's directly connected to your delay now. So you basically have a nice clockable digital delay.
Yeah.
Sweet.
In there with the other stuff. So yeah, I dig it.
So you were talking about there's this sort of like fractal network of a lot of stuff going on. Can you turn things down while you're trying to dial other things in? I mean, is there a way to sort of like audition certain configurations, or is it basically
Not
like
really.
you've got this like sort of like hairy ball of
Yes.
stuff going on?
Yeah, I mean, there's only like 4 things you can really do. So it's I keep saying like it's a good companion to clouds, but I feel like it's kind of like that in a way where you have like, you know, your basic functions there of like your modes of like feedback or reverb, you know what I mean, and then your main mode and things like that. It's like kind of in that way where like the main mode is the filter, and then you have these other little things you bring in around it, and it just creates like its own thing. And
Yeah.
this might be a little vague to some listeners, but I've been making material that I can only say it kind of harkens back to old Ant Zen / Gridlock, because it's got that crispy digital sound to it, and with the bitrate reduction that you can kind of bring in just a bit, you can make things sound clean yet lo-fi. You know what I mean? It's like you know it's digital. You know, like your ears can detect that, but it doesn't sound like shit. It doesn't sound like a bad VST or something.
Yeah,
you know what I mean?
right.
It sounds like quality digital processing with enough in there to kind of mangle up your source and get something interesting out of it. Very IDM friendly, for lack of a better term, I guess I would say.
I imagine a lot of our listeners are Ant Zen and Gridlock fans.
Yeah.
I don't think it's going to be totally foreign to them.
Yeah. Like, would I get this to run my analog bass synth through? No.
Right.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Like, that I think would disappoint you. If you're trying to create like weird glitchy IDM beats through it and you need like a stereo filter post some other like reverb effects that you're running your shit through, it's excellent for that. The little features like the buffer, beat repeat thing, like that's typical IDM shit. You know what I mean?
Yeah,
like
yeah.
I feel like it was definitely designed with that sound in mind, and it kind of nails it. For anything else, probably not so much, but that's kind of the mode I'm in right now anyways, so I'm gelling with it really well, especially post clouds.
Now, does it like cover some of what you would get from like Cameral beat repeat at all, or is it like kind of a different beast?
Yeah. I wouldn't say it's that precise because you're not like clocking it, you know what I mean?
Yeah,
like,
I getcha.
But I mean, it depends on how you're hitting that. Like, if you're hitting it with a sequence, yeah, it would be spot on. Like the Cameral thing, that's definitely more versatile. You know what I mean? Like, you can
Right.
do kind of like full-on rearrangements of a beat with that. Right. You're not going to be doing that with this.
Gotcha.
But you can get little, stutter steps and glitchy sounds out of it. I like it. I guess like over the last 3 years or so, I've owned a lot of different qubit modules. Almost all of them I end up disappointed with for one reason or another. So far, this one, I haven't found anything to really bitch about or be disappointed in. Kind of nails it. It's in a good small package, priced right, feels solid. The only problem I've had with it so far is I've had it freeze on startup once, and I had to reboot my whole case to get it to turn on, which I also had the same problem with the Nebula. So I don't know, maybe they just have some issues with these digital modules and power at the moment.
So you're no stranger to having duplicates of things. Is this something that you would see maybe having or getting value out of having 2 of them?
Yeah, I've already made space. Like if you look at my case next to it, if I moved the first Prism all the way to the right, I can fit another one right next to it, and it would fill that gap perfectly.
Okay.
I do plan on getting a second one. It's just the move and everything right now has kind of tapped me out. I haven't had a chance to buy any new toys. I wasn't even going to buy that, but I was like bored, and I've been spending all my money on like responsible shit and stupid stuff. And I was like, I need something fun. So took a little gamble on it, and I'm pretty happy with it. I give it 2 thumbs up so far. sample drum's been out for not even a month, and there's been like 5 firmware revisions already. So
Oh, really?
yeah,
Now, is that because there's problems, or is it because they're just going nuts making cool new stuff?
both. It's a mixture of both. That's why I don't own one.
Yeah.
Because like I was mentioning before, like I'm just fucking tired of updating shit, and I know that anytime something digital comes out, there's going to be an update shortly that follows.
Mm-hmm.
And after going through jump through hoops to update my Erica drums sequencer, I was like, I don't really feel like dealing with that. So I was like super excited when the drum sample was released, but I held off on buying it. I was like, I'm going to give this a month, maybe 2. And because I'm sure there's going to be a revision.
Let it settle down a
Yeah.
little bit. Let everyone else beta
And-
test for you.
I don't even think it was out a week, and there was already a revision. I was like, all right. And then since then, there's been a few more. I think at least 4, possibly 5. And I was like, okay, I'm really glad I didn't buy this yet. But I definitely plan on getting one. Like we've discussed, I think multiple times now in episodes, how it would be nice if somebody made like a Dr. Rex in a module.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And this is like, I think as close as anything has ever come to being that. You know, it looks like it is right up that alley, kind of hits that target. So I have to at least try one. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
It looks a little menu divey, a little cramped for the functionality that's in there.
Agreed.
You know, but
It's hard to tell because a lot of the videos I've seen have been with the waveform, with action, with basically not the setup to get to the craziness that they're doing.
Right.
So I'm kind
Right.
of like, I wonder how long that actually took you to get to that. Like that might have actually kind of been a pain to get to that point.
right, it definitely can handle slicing and CV modulations within a loop, you know what I mean, to create interesting rhythmic slicing, breakcore in a box type of thing.
Yeah.
But if it takes you an hour to set that up
Right.
at a time, you know what I mean? Then I don't know. Dialing in slice points on that tiny ass screen with, a little knob, if it doesn't detect it automatically correctly, would be a fucking nightmare. And it's like, who wants to sit there and do that? You know what I mean?
Even on the ER301, it's really fucking nice to put in slice points. You're set up pretty well. It's still kind of annoying to sit there and go through and do it sometimes because it's like it'll even hit 0 points and everything.
I was going to say, does it jump to 0, like the closest 0?
You can actually select it and it'll be like, oh, go to the nearest 0. He's really smart about it, but it's still sometimes it's like, just want to hit a slider, go up and see the thresholds hit and just fucking play those, like recycle style.
Yeah. Every video it looks super crazy, and I'm not doing stuff at that sort of breakcore speed. So I'm kind of like,
I know if I get it, I might do that again. I haven't really done anything like that since early Prometheus burning stuff. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Watching demos of it, I was like, man, that makes me want to jump back to early 2000s, just
210
fucked up,
BPM,
sliced up.
go
Oh
nuts.
yeah, just a little bit of breakcore there, some industrial madness, and just fucking layer some gabber kicks on top of it.
I mean, it's almost inevitable when you get one to
Yeah.
you're going to dip in. You got to test the waters.
I hope the default sound bank just comes with 200 different fucking amen breaks already loaded in it.
All I got on my list is analog heat. Really flexible the way you can frequency select what you're distorting. The cool thing I like about the analog heat, I'm glad I got the Mark II because it kind of shows you how the modulation is affecting the signal, whereas the last one didn't. And I think it would be a little difficult to know how the envelope, you'll obviously hear it, but it's nice to be like, oh, that's how much of the signal it's biting or how much it's carving out. The cool thing is every knob is saved in the preset, which is awesome because if you recall it, it is absolutely the way you had it, even up to the master volume. I think there's nothing that's you're going to have to be figuring out to get it to that level again. Stereo filter, which is very nice. I like that you can process things and filter them in stereo. I don't have a stereo filter equipment wise. Normally they're modular ones, so it's cool to run a piece of gear in and have it sound kind of normal.
do you have independent controls over each filter separately? I mean, can you?
No, it's one filter basically, and at the bottom you get the bands that you can select, and you get resonance and a frequency control. And you can point the LFOs to it, or it has 2 CV inputs too, so you can point things to that, which was very appealing. That was kind of what sold me on it. It's 2 CV ins? Fuck yeah, I'll give this a try. Because I didn't realize until right after I bought it, I was like, oh, the Sherman Filter Bank Compact exists, and it's the same price, and I bet it sounds ridiculous. Yeah. It does. from what I've heard. But I really like the envelope follower on the Heat. The 8 different distortions. I was having a lot of fun with the classic distortion last night, getting sounds from like, I've been trying to get that sound for a long time, and I fucking got it.
Yeah.
And it was like a fucking playground last night when I was playing it. Yeah. The screen was definitely lifting off of it when I got it. Typical Electron. And I was like, what the fuck? Like, it came up again, and I like held it down for a second, and then it stayed there. And I think I just had to press the glue back down. Now it doesn't lift it up yet. We'll see
Nice.
like what the first hot day in July is like. But you
We're in
know,
a nice humid fucking club.
I also got the Mark II because it has the encoders from the Digitact and the new stuff, and I read complaints about like good luck dialing in the exact decimal value on the old one because it was like the old style encoders that were not that good. It's fucking pricey, but I really like it so far. It's got 8 different distortion circuits. I really like the subtle ones, and I really like some of the extreme ones too. And you can
how
point the CV to almost any parameter on there, which is cool.
That's how I felt about the drive too. I liked the very subtle ones, like the clean one or whatever it is,
Yeah.
and like the last one. Not much in between really caught my ear, but I was liking the first and the last.
Now the drive didn't have the filter, right? And it was just mono. Is that?
It had an sort of a filter. It was like a 3-band EQ with like, it had low gain, plus minus, high plus minus, but then it had like, it was like your notch that you could adjust to like scoop kind of in between the two and make like a sort of like a bandpass effect. I don't know.
That's more than this has, because the one thing I don't like about this is you have 2 fixed frequency low and high EQs that you can just boost and like cut the gain. And I'm like,
yeah.
it sounds good, but why the fuck didn't you let us pick the frequency?
What are the
Yeah.
frequencies? Are they like snare and
I don't even
kick?
know.
Is it like, oh, okay.
That's a good question. It just feels almost like a mixer low high EQ if you just had like a 2-band on a mixer or
Exactly,
something like
yeah.
that. And it sounds good, like quality sounds good. No complaints there. So at the bottom left, you get 3 controls, which is pretty interesting. You get a drive control, and then you get a wet dry control, and then you also get a wet level control, which is really nice. So you can adjust the wet dry, but you can also boost the wet or reduce the wet signal. So it's got a lot of stuff that can let you kind of be like, oh, I just want to take the mid highs and distort those, and then everything else I'm just going to leave kind of clean. So that's one of the
cool,
nicer
yeah.
things about it is you get kind of, it's almost a little multi-bandy. It's like they got close to multi-band distortion, but they didn't want to go the whole way or something like that. So obviously it's only one distortion. You don't get like 4 of them, but it's pretty flexible from that standpoint. At first I thought it was going to be really good for live stuff, and I used it in Detroit with the TR-8S, and it was good. I just needed to dirty that thing up because I don't really like the plain stuff like that anymore from the Xaoc stuff. But I find that when I use it at home, it takes me like a good 10 minutes, and I'll dial it in or something, and I'll be like, oh, shit, that's the sweet spot. I don't know if I want to go through that live.
Everyone wait. Hold on.
Hold on, finding the sweet spot.
Oh, wait, that's too... Hold, wait.
Can someone come up and DJ while I figure this out?
Yeah. The resonance is pretty whistly. It's not super special, but does the trick.
And this is a nice change of pace from our normal, oh my god, Electron, what are you doing?
Yeah.
Like-
No, I was skeptical. It was like $700, but it is 8 distortions, a stereo filter, like the envelope follower, the CVNs. I'm not mad at it at the end of the day. I've been trying to get some of these tones for a while. Shout out to the TB3 too. That's kind of my favorite acid box at this point.
Yeah,
That
you're getting a lot of mileage out of that thing.
Oh, it's fucking... I think it's almost better. As I get older, I turn the resonance down more and realize that it's just a fucking bass monster at the end of the day, and you don't need to fucking make it all tweaked out 303 all the time. The new Behringer sounds fucking good.
I haven't listened to it yet.
The one video I saw on Matrix, it sounds pretty goddamn good.
It's one of those things where I'll just keep that on mind until I wander into pianos and stuff one day, and I'll just be sitting there, and I'll be like a impulse buy. You know what I mean? Once I fuck with it, and I'll be like, oh, this sounds great. Whoop, walk out the door with it.
For our listeners that are not in the Pittsburgh or Blawnox area, Pianos and Stuff is a local music instrument shop.
It's pretty much...
They're great.
Yeah.
They're like
Yeah.
all we have.
It is.
Aside from the guitar centers, which popped up and are already, I think, dead. I think there's only one left. I mean, everything that I got for Prometheus Burning was pretty much picked from the graveyard of their used section. Like every mic stand and keyboard stand. And
I actually went into the used section at pianos and stuff last week because I'll go there on lunch break sometimes. I eat at Curbside Coffee House, which is close there sometimes. The only thing they had down there was pretty sad. There was like a lone Volca kick, like in the corner.
Sad.
Some
Volca
weird
kick
pedals that
chilling there.
nobody would ever want.
Yeah.
But I did play that Volca modular because you mentioned that. I was like,
Yeah.
oh yeah, I played that. Nah,
Not feeling
not
it?
feeling it.
I got the same result.
Really?
I
I kind of like the sound of it. Like,
did you play with one physical?
yeah, and I played with Size.
Oh, yeah?
My
Oh, yeah, I
cousin,
remember
he got
seeing
one.
that.
Oh,
He had it on pre-order. He brought it over.
I screwed with that thing for
I was
like
kind of
20
impressed
minutes.
Oh, yeah?
with the sound of that little thing. Yeah, but
I couldn't get any.
I
mean,
felt like
not
you
from
with
the
the
speaker.
ranges. It was like, oh shit, you're over there now. It was
Yeah.
really hard to like dial in a little bit,
Yeah.
but
it's a pain in the ass. The program, I wouldn't want to do it. But
And
like
they didn't have any
for
of the
a
patch
vocal
cables
box
out,
though,
too.
like compared to all the other vocal, I think it's a really interesting addition.
They had the Taraz AS1 there, and I thought that sounded great actually
Yeah, I
when I
played with
played
that
it, but it
very
was
too.
like poke. I couldn't like get it to make notes for a second. That little keyboard sucks ass. The one on the Volca at least was very responsive, and it was like, oh, this is cool.
Yeah.
You should put that thing on the AS1, and that would be kind of cool.
You gotta remember that's a demo unit. Like that thing gets manhandled
true.
every
Yeah.
day by people slamming on that thing, probably trying to play it like an actual keyboard. You know what I
Yeah.
mean?
children with their sticky fingers and
But still, it's got to be able to take that. you
Yeah,
know?
that's true. I did enjoy the sound of the AS1. I've wanted one of those since it was announced, and when I played with one a couple weeks ago at pianos and stuff, I was like, yeah, I still kind of want this. Like,
It sounds good.
Yeah,
It was a
was-
little bigger than I thought, too. It was a little like a little beefier.
it's substantial. Yeah,
Mm-hmm.
I love the format of the SP16. I think it feels great. It's good size. Which, speaking of Tarazes, the Squid
Oh, right.
was announced. The Squid looks bigger than my SP16. It's
Really?
like, yeah, that thing looks big. I was like, because if it was a little smaller, I'd love to pair it up with it, like for live. You know what I mean? A little sequencer that's like the same form factor. Slap it next to my.
how much bigger is it?
SP16.
Like,
I think it's like a few inches wider. Like it's
Damn.
unnecessarily big, and it doesn't even have a
There's a-
fucking screen.
yeah,
like
there's a
mine
lot of
does.
like dead space on it. It's not like it's
Yes.
filled with
Yes.
buttons. I mean, there's a lot of buttons, but it's like there's
and there's some weird shit that doesn't need to be filling
Like
space.
Yeah.
momentary swing slider, which I want to hear it. I'm very skeptical. I think we all are of like
Yeah.
how much you want to introduce micro swing amounts with a significant part of your interface, you know? Like,
Yeah, it would be nice if you can reconfigure that jog wheel to do other shit.
yeah.
Because otherwise, I feel like that's just a waste of space, like and hardware. You know, that's just something else you have to worry about breaking or getting snagged. It's like,
Yeah.
is it really worth it? You know what I mean? Like you probably could have done like an AS1 little touch thing
That would have been
with like a latch key. You know what I mean?
Right.
Like why have a hardware jog wheel?
I hope you can configure that.
Yeah.
you know?
Or you guys just didn't realize that is what you've been looking for this whole fucking
Maybe.
time.
Shit.
And
That's
it just
the missing link, dude.
And it just
Yeah.
opens up a whole new fucking world. And you'll be like, not only am I glad they put it on this, why doesn't everything else have this?
That's true.
I have zero optimism that is going to be the result.
You do that and it just snaps dancers' legs on the dance floor as you do it. Snap.